Family is a word that once meant chaos and laughter, that once meant 18 children gathered around a massive table, wives bustling in every corner of the house, the sounds of arguments and love colliding in the same room, and yet now, the very word seems hollow, as if it were a mask that never truly fit, and Kody Brown's absence from Thanksgiving has become the emblem of that hollowness. Because this isn't about a missed holiday or a scheduling conflict. It's about a man who, over decades, meticulously orchestrated a system of control, favoritism, and fear that slowly, inexorably, alienated the very people who should have been closest to him, and it all began to unravel in 2020, when a pandemic gripped the world, and for the Brown family, it became less about public health and more about revealing who would bow to authority, who would bend to rules laid down on paper with rigid instructions, rules that demanded complete compliance, yet disguised themselves as protection. And when Christine chose to defy those rules to spend Thanksgiving with her daughter in Utah, when Janelle did the same, celebrating with her children and sister rather than submit to an arbitrary protocol, the cracks in Kody's carefully constructed empire of obedience became visible, and only Meri and Robyn, standing steadfast at the table, remained loyal, the others quietly, consciously stepping away. A silent rebellion that Kody could see in his confessional, chilling in its clarity, realizing who would obey, who would betray, and in that moment, Thanksgiving wasn't about gratitude. It was about testing loyalty, and the seeds of estrangement were sown, seeds that would grow into a forest of distance and emotional abandonment in the years to come, a forest through which Kody would wander, increasingly isolated, as his children and ex-wives forged new paths, new traditions, new celebrations that excluded him entirely. Because Christine remarried in Utah, building a life that didn't depend on a man who demanded control over her choices. Janelle, pursuing spiritual divorce, chose her freedom and her children's well-being over compliance. Meri, running a bed and breakfast and embracing the life she wanted, had no reason to be tethered to a figure who had long since demonstrated favoritism, while Robyn, the legal wife, the one who remained physically present, became the focal point of his loyalty tests, the one who received the reward of proximity. Yet even this loyalty came at a cost, for favoritism poisoned relationships, creating a hierarchy where some children were optional and others were central. And when social media posts revealed smiling families celebrating without him, fans noticed immediately, questions flooded the comments, and the truth became undeniable. Kody wasn't invited because he had removed himself, brick by brick, choice by choice, from the very lives he claimed to protect. And the pattern persisted, every year reinforcing itself. As Thanksgiving 2022 rolled around with empty chairs and distant laughter, as children and ex-wives found joy and connection elsewhere, the stark contrast between Kody's reality and the curated Instagram narratives of others painting a picture of normalcy he could no longer claim, and the tragedies that should have brought the family together only accelerated the divide, such as the heartbreaking loss of Garrison in 2024. A tragedy that might have united them, but instead, Kody's absence at the funeral, his refusal to acknowledge the children who grieved, his positioning as the victim rather than the father who should have been present, only confirmed to everyone watching that he had engineered his own exile, and Leon's public statements calling him a liar, a failure, a joke of a father only echoed what the audience had long suspected. The man who once ruled over a sprawling, chaotic, loving family had now become a shadow, a reminder of what control without empathy, favoritism without fairness, and authority without accountability can do to the bonds of blood and love. And while Kody spoke of reconciliation, therapy, and regret, his approach demanded that the children come to him, apologize, acknowledge betrayal, and submit to his version of forgiveness, failing to grasp that reconciliation is not a unilateral act, that the heart of family cannot be repaired by speeches or confessions alone. And this misunderstanding crystallized in actions such as the sale of Coyote Pass, the land meant to be their forever home, transformed from a symbol of unity into a monument of the dream's death, a silent announcement that the family as once imagined could never be whole again. As Christine embraced her new husband, Janelle pursued independence. Meri found joy in her chosen path, and Kody remained with Robyn and her 5 children, small circle, a shadow of what he once claimed as his kingdom. While the majority of his 18 children forged lives apart, Thanksgiving tables full of laughter, gratitude, and connection, places where Kody's chair remained conspicuously empty because these absences were not accidents. They were the inevitable consequences of decades of control, manipulation, and failure to take responsibility, and as the pattern repeated year after year, empty chairs became statements, each unfilled space a physical manifestation of emotional distance, of choices made and bridges burned. While fans, social media, and onlookers documented the split, photos capturing warmth and joy in the very places Kody could no longer enter, every smiling face a silent rebuke, every family gathering a quiet declaration of independence, and the story of the Browns transformed from one of plural family unity into a saga of estrangement, tragedy, and the consequences of leadership mistaken for domination, as Kody's version of family became ever smaller, ever narrower, defined only by those who chose to remain, while the rest created their own traditions, their own definitions of love and togetherness. In homes across Utah, North Carolina, Michigan, and Denver, a diaspora of family that no amount of pleading, therapy, or confessions could reunite, because trust, once broken, and loyalty, once tested and found wanting, cannot be simply reset. And as we watch this unfold on Sister Wives, season after season, it becomes clear that the real story is not about missing Thanksgivings or public images or tabloid speculation, but about the profound consequences of favoritism, control, and the failure to prioritize love and accountability over ego. The painful truth that Kody himself created the very loneliness he now claims to suffer, engineering his own exile, and unless fundamental change occurs, unless he can meet his children where they are, respect their boundaries, and relinquish the need to be the ultimate arbiter of loyalty and obedience, the future will continue to mirror the past: empty chairs, divided celebrations, and a patriarch increasingly isolated, grateful only for those who remained by his side, while the real Thanksgiving, the true essence of family, continues without him, and every holiday, every photograph, every social media post only reinforces the stark reality. Kody Brown is no longer at the center of the Browns family, and perhaps, after all the years of control, favoritism, and loyalty tests, he never truly was. And as the years unfolded, the consequences of Kody Brown's choices became increasingly visible, a slow-motion unraveling that transformed what once seemed like a chaotic but functioning plural family into a landscape of estrangement, emotional distance, and fractured bonds, a landscape where the echoes of laughter and holiday chaos were replaced by silence, social media posts, and carefully curated glimpses of joy in spaces where he could no longer participate, because each choice he made, each act of favoritism toward Robyn, each insistence on obedience from his wives, each refusal to acknowledge mistakes, and each attempt to control situations that were already slipping from his grasp only compounded the separation, and the pattern was undeniable. The absences were no longer individual events, but a continuous thread, a trail of evidence pointing to a man who had systematically alienated almost every one of his adult children, leaving only a shrinking circle of those who chose proximity out of loyalty, fear, or habit, while the majority had moved on, built their own lives, created their own traditions, and in doing so, implicitly declared to the world that Kody was no longer central to their understanding of family, and this reality was reflected in heartbreaking yet powerful ways, as Michael T. moved her family across the country, exhausted from the constant attempts to reconcile, isolate, or force a connection that no longer existed, as Madison, Janelle's daughter, raised her 3 children with little contact with a father who rarely saw them, as Leon, Meri's only child, publicly revealed the depth of his estrangement, highlighting a father absent at the funeral of his own son, an absence that shocked fans and insiders alike, because even tragedy, even death, failed to draw Kody back into the orbit of those he once claimed as family, and the symbolic power of these absences could not be overstated. Empty chairs at Thanksgiving, silence on social media, scattered celebrations across the country, each one a physical manifestation of emotional exile, each one a statement of autonomy and survival by the children and ex-wives who refused to allow loyalty tests, favoritism, or control to define their lives. And as Christine built her new life in Utah, embracing her husband David, as Janelle pursued a spiritual divorce and carved a path of independence, and as Meri discovered joy in running her bed and breakfast and traveling on her own terms, the contrast with Kody's existence became increasingly stark because while he remained with Robyn in Flagstaff, trying to maintain control and a semblance of family, the reality was that the majority of his children had chosen to define their own connections, their own traditions, and their own versions of Thanksgiving, ones that centered love, authenticity, and genuine presence rather than hierarchy, control, or obedience. And the psychological weight of this realization was immense because Kody, despite confessions, therapy mentions, and promises of change, still framed reconciliation as a unilateral act in which the children had to come to him, apologize, and acknowledge perceived betrayals, failing to understand that reconciliation is mutual, that love cannot be coerced, and that the very structures he built to maintain authority had destroyed the trust and intimacy necessary for any real family connection. And this was visible not only in the ongoing social media absence, but in the cascading legal, emotional, and spiritual separations, like the custody lawsuit filed by Christine in 2024, a decisive move that demonstrated not only the breakdown of marital relations, but the necessity of protecting children from further harm in the absence of a father willing to meet them halfway. And while Kody may speak publicly about regrets, his words carry less weight than the tangible evidence of a family that has moved on, a landscape of estrangement punctuated by milestones, holidays, and life events where his presence is neither requested nor desired, because trust, once fractured, cannot be simply restored with apologies, and control, once mistaken for leadership, cannot recreate connection, and the emotional ramifications of this reality ripple outward, affecting not only the adult children who have intentionally distanced themselves, but also the grandchildren, whose formative experiences of family and Thanksgiving no longer include him, who instead inherit the independence, warmth, and presence of mothers, aunts, uncles, and siblings who have chosen authenticity over hierarchy. And the sale of Coyote Pass in April 2025 became a powerful symbol of this permanent separation, transforming a once sacred shared space into a monument of closure, a financial and emotional acknowledgement that the family dream, once imagined as a sprawling, chaotic, loving plural household, no longer exists, that the vision of shared holidays, laughter, and unity had been replaced with individualized lives, separate homes, and personal traditions. And in this void, Kody remained, surrounded only by Robyn and her 5 children, holding on to the remnants of a family system that had collapsed under the weight of favoritism, control, and an inability to acknowledge wrongdoing. And yet, despite all this, the narrative continues to unfold on Sister Wives, season after season, documenting the fallout, the divided celebrations, the scattered conversations, and the subtle moments where Kody almost seems to grasp the enormity of what he lost, moments pregnant with possibility, but ultimately overshadowed by the reality that understanding alone cannot undo years of fractured relationships, because as long as he positions himself as the victim, as long as he demands submission, as long as he expects the children to come to him rather than meet them where they are, the Thanksgiving tables will remain divided, the empty chairs will remain empty, and the visual and emotional distance will persist as a constant reminder of choices made and bridges burned. And while Kody may sit at a table with Robyn and her children, calling it Thanksgiving, the real celebrations, the authentic gatherings filled with laughter, love, and presence, occur elsewhere, in homes across Utah, North Carolina, Denver, and Michigan, a diaspora of the Brown family that has consciously chosen connection over compliance, love over loyalty tests, and presence over control. And the haunting truth is that Kody himself manufactured the very isolation he now laments, creating a vacuum of presence and warmth that cannot be filled by any confessions, therapy mentions, or symbolic gestures. And this is the reality that no amount of tabloid speculation, Instagram posts, or public statements can obscure. The family as once imagined no longer exists. The patriarch has engineered his own exile, and unless he fundamentally alters his approach to relationships, accountability, and fatherhood, every future Thanksgiving will mirror the past. Empty chairs at a table where only those who remain loyal will be present, while the majority of his children and their families celebrate, post, and live without him, choosing instead to honor what family should be, a space of unconditional love, authentic connection, and presence, over obedience, hierarchy, or favoritism. And in the final analysis, Kody's story is no longer just about absences from holidays. It is about the consequences of control masquerading as leadership,